Alright, welcome to episode 6, Quarantine Cooks. Today I'm going to show you how to upgrade your pasta, and the secret lies in the pasta water. But first, real quick, I just wanted to say thank you to my friends over at With the Grain Woodworks. They gave me this beautiful cutting board, and I absolutely love it, so I just wanted to say thank you to those guys. Okay, so the key to pasta is not thinking about your sauce and your pasta as two separate components to a dish. You want to marry them together to become one. And the key to doing that is all in the pasta water. So a colander should not be part of your pasta arsenal. I know that pasta water looks kind of gross and dirty, but inside of it is lots of salt and starch. And that salt and starch, when added to the hot oil in your sauce, is going to help emulsify those ingredients and bring everything together as one, which is really important. And that's what sets aside good pasta from bad pasta. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And the key to this dish is all in the ingredients. It's a very simple dish. I think we've only got 5 ingredients. I think we got like olive oil, garlic, tomatoes, basil, Parmesan cheese, and pasta. So it's a pretty simple dish. So get some good ingredients and it's going to turn out fantastic. And I'm going to show you how it's done. It's super easy. We're going to go start to finish in about 30 minutes here, and you're going to have an amazing pasta dish. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is grab a bulb of garlic and break that guy up. So you can use anywhere between like 2 to infinity amounts of garlic per can, but somewhere between like 2 and 4 is probably a good starting point. I like it a bit garlicky, so I'm going to go with 4 nice cloves here. Then to get them peeled, just take your knife and give them a smash. This will help them release from their papers, and it will also help develop a natural compound in the garlic called allicin, spelt like this. Allicin formation occurs almost instantly when garlic is smashed, chopped, or grated, and it's what helps give garlic that pungent flavor. It's why a whole clove of garlic smells like nothing, but a smashed clove of garlic smells like, well, garlic. Health food hippies try to bottle this shit into capsules and sell it because apparently it's super good for you, but we'll just make our own by smashing these cloves. Then I'm going to take my knife and just slice this garlic as thin as I can get it. If you prefer to grate it or to use a garlic crusher, then that's fine too. But we're going to saute this briefly in some olive oil, and it's really easy to burn garlic, so keeping them like this is just going to give us a bit more room for error. Don't worry about getting a big chunk of garlic in your dish. We're going to cook this sauce out for a while, which will completely neutralize that raw garlic flavor. So like I said, we just want to be careful that this garlic doesn't burn. So pour in a good amount of nice olive oil into a cold, heavy bottom pot or skillet. You want enough olive oil to completely cover the bottom of the pot. It's probably going to take a little bit more oil than you think it might, but don't worry about this sauce getting too oily or greasy. We'll completely emulsify the oil and garlic into the tomato sauce later. Then just add your garlic to the cold olive oil and give it a stir to break up all the pieces. Then turn on your burner onto like medium, low, and just let it come up to temperature. We're just going to cook this until the garlic begins to take on a very slight golden color. We don't want to get it too dark, which is why we're going to use a low heat here. So while your garlic's sauteing, we can get our tomatoes ready. Now you already know my thoughts on canned tomatoes, but if you need a refresher, go watch my intro to the minestrone video. But I'm going to use some whole canned San Marzano tomatoes and throw them into a blender and let this go on its lowest speed for about 20 seconds. If you go any faster, it's going to whip a bunch of air into your tomatoes and just make them all foamy. Alternately, a food mill works even better for this job if you have one. And if you like, you can go completely rustic with this dish and just dump this can of tomatoes into the sauce whole and use a wooden spoon or a potato masher to break them down to get like a chunky sauce. It's just up to you. So just set these tomatoes aside until we're ready to add them to the sauce. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record when I did this, but as soon as your garlic starts to take on some color, you want to add your tomatoes to the pot with a nice sprig of basil. If you don't have any basil on hand, you can really substitute for any fresh herb that you like, or just skip this completely if you don't have any fresh herbs on hand. So you can see around the edges of my pot all of the olive oil that I added earlier. The 2 ways that we're going to make this all come together is to keep this moving and to cook it over a higher heat. So once you add your tomatoes, turn up the heat to like medium high, and you want the sauce bubbling and spitting all over your stove the entire time it's cooking. It's going to make a mess, but it's totally worth it. Tomatoes can always use some salt, so just give this a nice pinch of kosher salt. So for the next 10 minutes, your only priority is this sauce. It'll take anywhere between like 15 and 25 minutes for this sauce to thicken and come together, so keep an eye on it and just stir it every now and then pretty vigorously. So the key to this dish is making sure that we add the pasta right at the very end. And it's a lot easier to overcook the pasta than it is to overcook the sauce. Actually, I don't think you can overcook the sauce. So don't even think about the pasta until the sauce is almost done. So while you're keeping an eye on your sauce, we're going to get our cheese prepped. I'm using freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, which is undoubtedly the king of Parmesan cheese. So the key to what we're trying to accomplish here is to get this grated as finely as we possibly can. If you've ever wondered what the one side of your cheese grater with the little circle holes does, this is it right here. So it's kind of a pain in the ass, I admit it, but keep going and it's going to turn this into an almost snow-like consistency. This super fine grate is the key to having our cheese melt properly when we add it to the sauce and to the pasta later on. So just fight with your cheese grater because it's absolutely worth it. You want to take this down almost to the rind, but just make sure you don't throw this out. You can actually toss this into a Ziploc bag and just toss it in the freezer and then add it to your next round of broth. And once you're done, you're going to be rewarded with this beautiful powder-like consistency. So now your sauce has been cooking for 10 or 15 minutes and it's starting to reduce. It's thickening up and that oil around the edge is either gone completely or it's almost gone. If you like, you can start prepping your pasta. So in a pot full of cold water, add 3 nice pinches of salt to your water and let that come up to a boil. Your sauce is good to go when all of that oil is gone and you drag your spoon through it and it stays apart for a couple of seconds. You can now fish out that sprig of basil and turn the heat down to just a bare simmer while we cook our pasta. So now with your water boiling, we can drop our pasta. Like I mentioned before, the way that we upgrade this dish is to marry the pasta and the sauce together with that pasta water. So we want that salty, starchy water to help bring everything together. So I'm actually going to cook my pasta in a pot that seems like it might be a bit small, but I do that because it helps concentrate all that starch together. So after you drop your pasta, just wait a minute for the bottom to soften up and then you can come in there with some tongs and give it a bend to get the rest of it submerged. Then, to make sure your pasta doesn't stick together, just stir it a couple times for the first 2 minutes while it's in the pot. Now that your pasta is off and going, we can give this sauce a bit more love. So I'm just going to come in with a handful or 2 of that cheese that we grated earlier and stir it in, and it's going to incorporate almost immediately because of how fine we got it. So just stir that in, and just be careful. If you're using Parmesan cheese from a bottle, it has a lot of preservatives and fillers in it that prevent the cheese from melting properly, so it might make it look a bit gloopy. So it might be better to just skip adding the cheese to the sauce and just use it as a topper because you might not get the results that you want. So now comes the most important part of this entire process. We're going to add our pasta to the sauce before it becomes al dente. We do not want to overcook this pasta, so we want it to finish cooking in our sauce. Like I said earlier, the pasta water is the key to marrying your sauce and your pasta. So we're going to use a pair of tongs to transfer the pasta into the sauce, trying to bring as much of that good pasta water over with us as we can. We do not want to strain this pasta. So once you get your pasta added to your sauce, come in and start tossing everything around to combine. Just keep moving it around and it won't take long before everything's coated. Then you're going to come in with anywhere between a quarter to a full cup of pasta water. This is all going to depend on how much sauce and pasta you're making, how thick your sauce is, how far you've reduced it down, etc, etc. I added about half a cup of pasta water. I know you might think that this is going to make it watery and runny, but it's actually going to do the exact opposite. The pasta water combined with the heat from the burner, the sauce, and the noodles is going to help thicken everything together and make your sauce and your pasta one. Just keep stirring it and it's all going to come together. Then come in with another couple handfuls of cheese because you can always use more cheese. And if you think it's looking a bit thick or gloopy, you can add a bit more pasta water to even out the consistency. Honestly, it only took us 30 minutes to make our own pasta sauce from scratch and marry everything together into one luscious dish. I really hope you try this one.